Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into something you probably don't think about much, but it's huge: education governance. It's like the hidden architecture, the invisible blueprint that shapes our schools, and it can literally decide if a school succeeds or fails before a single teacher even walks into a classroom. So, what's the secret to a really great school system? I mean, is it just about having great teachers or throwing more money at it? Or is there something else going on? Well, amazing teachers and good funding are obviously super important. But here's the thing: even with all the best resources, big new policies can just completely fall flat. And you have to ask why. It's because underneath everything, there's this powerful, kind of invisible operating system running the whole show. And that system, that's what we call education governance. The best way to think about it is like the master blueprint for our schools. Seriously, it's what decides who gets to set the curriculum, how much freedom a principal actually has to run their own school, and, who's on the hook for the results. It's the framework that makes everything else, well, work or not work. Okay, so how do you even start to draw up a blueprint like that? Well, when you get right down to it, it really boils down to two big competing ideas: control or flexibility. Right, so this is that classic tension, isn't it? Top-down control versus bottom-up flexibility. A centralized system, that's kind of like a single conductor leading a huge orchestra, right? They're aiming for perfect harmony, total consistency across the board. But a decentralized system, that's way more like a jazz band, where every musician has the freedom to improvise and adapt to what's happening in the moment. So when would you want that orchestra conductor? Well, centralized control is actually super effective when you need to make big, sweeping changes, and you need to make them fast. Think about rolling out a brand new national curriculum, or making sure every single teacher meets the exact same high standard, no matter if they're in the city or a tiny rural town. But then you've got the other side of the coin. That jazz band approach, that's where things really shine when you want to empower local communities. See, a decentralized model gives schools the flexibility to innovate, to really tailor what they're doing to the specific kids in their classrooms, and to get parents and the whole community way more involved. But here's the crucial thing, and this is really important: neither model is automatically better. It's not that simple. I mean, you can give schools all the freedom in the world, but if the local leaders don't have the skills to use it, or if there's just no trust in the system, it's going to fail. The blueprint is only ever as good as the builders and the materials they have to work with. Okay, so let's make this real. Let's see these blueprints in action by looking at two absolute superstars in the education world: Singapore and Finland. What's so fascinating is they took completely different paths to get to the top. First up, let's talk about Singapore. Honestly, it's the poster child for a highly centralized system. We're talking about a place where every single piece of the education machine is just meticulously aligned and coordinated right from the top. They actually call it a system of coherence. And then in the total opposite corner, you've got Finland. Their model couldn't be more different. It's decentralized, and it's built on this incredibly deep foundation of trust. Trust in their highly trained teachers and their local leaders. Okay, check this out. What's so wild here is how this just lays bare these two totally different paths to the exact same goal: world-class education. On one hand, you have Singapore, relying on a super powerful Ministry of Education that's basically directing all the traffic, right? Making sure everything from curriculum to leadership training is perfectly in sync. And then you've got Finland, who does the opposite. They set a broad national framework, and then they just trust their world-class teachers and local governments to figure out the rest. So this brings up a huge question. If the model itself, centralized or decentralized, isn't the magic bullet, then what is? Well, all the evidence points to two things: leadership and accountability. Think about it. A policy is really just a piece of paper, right? It's a document. It takes a real leader to bring it to life. And we're not talking about leaders who just issue commands from on high. Effective leaders, they communicate a clear vision. They get everybody on the same page. They build trust. And they know how to skillfully navigate all the inevitable roadblocks that pop up when you're trying to make real change happen. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. You can have the biggest, grandest plans coming out of the nation's capital, but they mean absolutely nothing if you don't have capable principals and district leaders on the ground. They're the ones who have to translate that big vision into reality, one classroom at a time. But even strong leadership can't do it alone. It needs a partner, and that partner is a really solid accountability system. You've got to have a way to make sure that everyone, and I mean everyone from the top minister down to the newest teacher, is answerable for their piece of the puzzle.
Now, when we say accountability, a lot of people think of punishment, the blame game, but that's not what we're talking about here. A really healthy system actually balances four key pillars. You've got legal accountability, basically following the rules. Then there's administrative accountability, reporting on how things are going. Professional, that's meeting the standards set by your peers. And maybe most importantly, public accountability, which is all about maintaining the trust of students and the wider community. It's a whole system of responsibility.
All right, so where does all this leave us? What's the final verdict? After looking at the different models and the key ingredients for success, what's the one thing we really take away from all this? Well, here's the thing. In the end, the debate isn't really about picking a side, centralization versus decentralization. It's about something called coherence. The most successful education systems on the planet are the ones that create a blueprint where everything, the governance model, the quality of leadership, and the skills of the people in the system are all perfectly aligned, all working together toward the same goal. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to chew on. When you look at the schools in your own community, what kind of blueprint do you see? Can you spot the architecture at work? Is it a system built around top-down control, or is it one built on a foundation of local trust? Because the answer to that question, well, it says a whole lot about the kind of education our kids are getting.